Have you ever come across a business online? I mean, you've seen their posts consistently, you've visited their website, and maybe even watched their videos, and somehow you still couldn't explain clearly what they actually do. You see, that happens more often than most people realize. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest communication problems across agriculture today. Because there they there are already so much organizations that are doing great work. You see, they're active, they're visible, they're attending events, they're posting activities. But despite all of that visibility, people are still confused about what the business actually does, who it serves, why their work matters, and why people should trust their business. And the truth is that visibility is not always the real problem. Sometimes the real problem is clarity. One thing I've noticed repeatedly across agriculture is that many businesses start, the first instinct is usually let's create content, let's post online, let's become visible. Very few people pause to ask, what exactly should people understand about this business? What do we want to be known for? How should people describe our business when we are not in the room? And honestly, for me, that foundation is where many communication problems begin. Because you see, communication is not just posting activities online. It is not just about, rather, it is about helping people clearly understand your business. And when that clarity is missing, you see, confusion starts to happen. I've seen so many businesses that are doing great work. I mean, just an example, a case study. So they had multiple areas, but every time people interact with them, they walk away with a different understanding of what that business actually is. One person thinks they are a training organization. Another thinks that they are a consulting firm. Someone else thinks that they are a finance company. And now the problem is that it's not because that business lacks value, right? But because the communication is disconnected. The different parts of the business have not been clearly tied together into one clear story. Now, people can understand, right? One clear story that people can actually understand. And honestly, I think that's really common. Another thing is that communication is heavily reduced to social media. The moment you mention communication, people immediately say, oh, we already have it, someone handling our social media. But communication and social media, they are not the same thing. Social media is just a channel. Communication is much deeper than that. Communication shapes how your business is understood, how trust is built, how perception is formed, and how people connect your work to real value. That's why I always say you cannot start roofing a building without first laying the foundation. But many business try to do exactly that. They rush immediately into visibility before building clarity. And visibility without clarity can actually become dangerous because visibility has a tendency to amplify whatever already exists. So, if your communication is scattered, visibility will amplify that confusion. If your messaging is inconsistent, visibility makes that inconsistency louder. If people already misunderstand your business, visibility can deepen that misunderstanding. That's why your communication should never be treated as an afterthought, especially for organizations that are trying to grow credibility, enter new markets, attract partnerships, or even position themselves for bigger opportunities. You cannot just enter a market and immediately start pushing visibility everywhere without first without having that understanding of who are we trying to speak to? What do we want people to associate us with? Why should people trust us? What problem are we solving? Because Communication is really a long term trust building process, and trust is built through consistency. Consistency in your message, consistency in your positioning, consistency in how people experience your brand over time. That's why random visibility rarely works long term. Okay, you cannot try to be everywhere at once without a clear communication direction. Eventually, people will stop understanding what you stand for. And honestly, that's why I believe that organizations need more than visibility. They need communication clarity, they need stronger positioning, they need to understand how different parts of their work connect together. They need to understand who they're trying to reach and how they want to be perceived. Because once that clarity exists, communication becomes easier, content becomes easier, visibility becomes more intentional, and trust becomes much stronger over time. That's really the difference. It is not just about being seen, it is about being clearly understood. And honestly, I think that changes everything, really. Stay connected, subscribe, and don't forget to share the videos. Cheers.